How I made my first $1 million as a land investor. What's up guys, my name is Sumner Healey. I'm the founder of a company called thelandpioneer.com. We sell land all throughout the internet. In the last 18 months, we've done a little over $2.2 million in sales. And I make these videos to document my journey and hopefully help others along the way. Now, truthfully, I hate this title. How I've made my first $1 million, it's so annoying, right? You see it all over the internet. But what I'm really going to use this video for is to tell you my origin story. And I hope that you guys are going to be able to glean some insights. In fact, I know you guys will be able to glean some insights from this. So back in 2018, 2017, that kind of era, I was running a couple of different businesses. I was running an FBA business that I've been running for about 3 years. I dropped out of college to pursue that business. I had a little at-home personal training gym. I knew I wanted to get into real estate though. That always seemed like the end game for me. If you look at the statistics, it's like, X% of millionaires made their wealth in real estate, blah, blah, blah. I knew I wanted to get involved. So at the time I was living out in North County, San Diego, a little town called Poway. And my girlfriend and I at the time were handwriting little letters and going out to houses that looked kind of derelict and defunct. And I was gonna go door knock and hand them the letter. Of course, the results were not very great. Two things that I did wrong. One, I did not realize that activity is everything, right? I went and door knocked on maybe 20 or 30 homes. Probably needed to multiply that by 10 or 20 to see any kind of result. The other thing that I did not realize at the time though is obviously people are not very receptive at the first touch, and so you need to continue to follow up. I didn't either. So after feeling pretty defeated and kind of getting my butt kicked, I decided to go and find a tax delinquent list for properties actually in San Diego. I figured, you know what, I'm knocking on these ugly houses, maybe houses that owe back taxes. Aha, those are the ones that would want to sell to me. But what I found was a tax delinquent list for a county called Elko County, Nevada. Way up in the middle of nowhere, northern end of Nevada. Hardly anyone's ever been there. But if you know that place, shout out to you. So got a tax delinquent list and started handwriting letters and mailing them out to people that owned properties up there. I think I mailed out a little less than 50 letters, and I got a few phone calls back, which was encouraging because I got no phone calls back when I was reaching out to the houses. And one of the guys that called me back said, hey, you know what? My dad owns the property. We got your letter. I think we may want to sell. I'm gonna go meet with him this weekend and I'll let you know. At that time, I think I'd offered like $2,000 for a 5-acre. I didn't even really know what it was worth. I just figured, hey, if I buy it for $2,000, I could probably make some money on it if it's a 5-acre. As you can see, my rationale was not very developed. So he calls me back and he says, you know what, we want closer to $4,000, and I didn't really have that much money at the time, right? I had about $9,000 saved up to go towards this new venture of land investing. That's kind of how much money I put aside. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna experiment with this. I'm gonna give myself a budget of $9,000. And the one thing that I did have my wits about me was in regards to a numbers game. I figured I don't want to put my $9,000 into one property. I would want to kind of sprinkle that out across a couple different properties, because odds are I don't know jack squat and I'm probably gonna make a poor mistake on one of them, right? And so I don't want that poor mistake to be on the one property that I buy for $9,000. I want to spread my risk. So I opted out of the deal, but I felt this wave of encouragement. The fact that someone even wanted to haggle and negotiate with me for my handwritten letter told me something's up here. And so what I ended up doing was I went and got a straight just list of property owners of vacant land in Nye County, Nevada. Now I targeted an area that was a little town called Pahrump. It's just west of Las Vegas. Now one thing that I learned from the tax delinquent approach is that a lot of those people are actually deceased. And so the reason that my response rate was pretty low, I assumed at least, is a lot of those people probably weren't living, or they were just hiding out and didn't want anyone to contact them. Therefore, they're not paying their taxes, they're not picking up their phone, that kind of thing. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go out and I'm gonna mail anyone and everyone who's owned a property, but they had to buy it before 1995. I assumed these people had owned their property for a while. Well, they're probably gonna want to let go of it opposed to someone that just bought it, 3 weeks ago. I don't remember the exact size of the list, but I know it was a little bit more than 1,000 property owners that I got. Now, thank God I did not go and handwrite those letters. I went and I found a direct mail company, actually just north up in San Bernardino County. I can't remember their name, but they were really nice. I didn't know anything about formatting a list or using Excel, and they kind of held my hand and helped me get my offer letter together. I wrote this offer letter together, which I thought was pretty good. I had my Excel sheet. I just didn't really know how to merge them. They helped me with that. Long story short, I mail it out. About 3 weeks go by until I get a phone call, and those 3 weeks were painstaking, man. I mean, Just in the mailing alone, I had invested, I think it was somewhere like $600 to $750. So, I'm already at like 7 to 8% of my $9,000 nest egg for this project has already been spent on mailing. So I'm nervous. And I remember it vividly. I was driving home and I was just leaving LA Fitness, and I get a call from this guy. It's a husband and wife. They're both on the phone. They didn't speak great English. They were originally from the Philippines. They had lived out in Las Vegas. They had owned the property for a while. They were not using it, and they wanted to take a trip back to the Philippines. I offered $1,027.57 or some weird cockamamie number like that, and they wanted to sell. And of course, I had no idea how to close the property, so I'm calling the Nye County Recorder's office. Hey, can you guys tell me how to close this property? They're like, kid, we can't give you legal advice. Go hire a lawyer. So I'm Googling like purchase agreement templates and trying to figure out how do I get a warranty deed? Do I notarize that? Do they notarize that? What the heck is this? And I was just figuring it out as I was going. And this was back in 2019, start of 2020. We end up getting the deal closed. There's a very sweet lady at the Nye County Recorder's office. Odds are she's not watching this, but she really helped me, and she gave me advice where she technically shouldn't have given me advice, but it saved me because she showed me how to format the deed and how to fill out their affidavit that you have to record with it. Bought the property for $1,000, sold it for $3,000 a few weeks later on Facebook, and I was hooked. Like a drug addict, I was hooked. I could not stop thinking about this. I was just dumbfounded that I had shuffled some papers and somehow people had paid me in that process. I got obsessed with looking at land too. It was like this weird infatuation where I wanted to go look at properties, and I would drive my girlfriend out to the middle of nowhere and we go look at land for sale. Like, it was just running through my head like an obsession. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And so from there, I really just went pedal to the metal. In 2020, I did about 62 deals, did a little north of $300,000 in sales. So okay, but nothing too insane. And then come 2021, things really became life-changing. In 2021, I did a little over $1.6 million in sales. Cost of goods, or the cost of the properties, was about $400,000, so about $1.2 million in gross margin. Of course, I have mailing expenses and things along those lines, but pretty much over one night, I went from scrappy entrepreneur who had like little, hints of success here to, I guess technically someone that made $1 million in a year, right? And it didn't even feel like that at the time. It still doesn't even really feel like that. But as I go through my numbers, I'm like, oh my God, that really did happen. Now, you probably are wondering, well, what did you do that really changed things from 2020 to 2021? Well, really, it just comes down to activity, right? And I talk about this a lot in my videos. I mailed more, right? I made more offers. And honestly, I spent more time reviewing markets. Those two things is really what everything else is dictated by. Your market selection and how much you market control every other variable in your business. So I started doing a lot more deals. The other thing is, on the flip side though, in terms of selling my properties, I got better at selling them, both in terms of marketing, but also in terms of hiring people to get on the phones and speak to potential buyers, where initially it was me doing everything. I was the guy researching, I was the guy pulling the data, I was the guy that was calling sellers, calling buyers, doing everything in between. And so in 2021, I learned how to delegate, I marketed more, and I picked better markets, spent more time reviewing markets. And that's really all this business comes down to. I think in a lot of cases, people like to make it more confusing than that. I like to think that if you can do those three things right, you're gonna make a lot of errors in other areas, but those three things will kind of smooth over those speed bumps. They will allow you to make mistakes in other areas, but that will ultimately kind of help your trajectory. Now, in 2021, I was doing a lot of small dollar deals. I was doing a lot of buy for $2 or $3 grand, sell for $6, $7, $8 grand. A lot of finance stuff, probably about 70% finance, 30% terms. Where in 2022, and I'm just totally transparent about this stuff, we've done almost $500,000 in 2022 so far. We're at the halfway point, so we'll probably do a little bit more than $1 million this year. We've got a pretty big pipeline currently, but for us, what we've done is we've gone kind of reverse. So now it's like 70% cash sales, 30% owner finance. We're doing a lot more cash sales, which is nice for us because a lot of that, $1.6 million in sales last year, that gets paid over time, right? So we do have notes that pay us monthly, which is great, but you don't capture all that value immediately. Where now, we're getting a ton more cash flow coming in every month because we get these big deposits where we sell a property and bang, what we're able to do is go and take that money and go push it back out there. We've also gotten pretty decent at finding partners for our property, so now we're starting to look at, okay, with this excess capital, how can we deploy it in other areas? Like, we're continuing to hire, we're continuing to market, but also looking at other avenues within real estate where we can deploy that capital, because what I've noticed is I am extremely vulnerable because all of my net worth is just in land, which is not the worst place it could be, but as we've grown and as my wealth has grown, I'm trying to look at, how can I diversify and ensure that I'm putting this money to use in other areas as well. Not because I think I can get a superior return. I think land truly has the best return out of really any asset class, but it's a way to diversify and kind of protect myself. So that's it, guys. It really went from idea in 2019, 2020 hit the ground running, 2021 1.6 million in sales, and 2022 here we are. We've got a team of 5 people, adding a 6th person this month. So the team has grown. My kind of role in the business has changed a little bit, but we're still growing, and it's really, really exciting. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed this, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell notification. We got a lot more videos on the way. So thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video. It really means the world to me. Take care.